Greetings from Snake Mountain Boat Works on Thursday, November 9, 2023. Here's an update on our 1951 18-foot Chris-Craft Riviera. Previously, I identified her as a 1953, I believe, but we received our hull card from the Mariners Museum in Virginia, which stipulates that she left Algonac in April of 1951. So she is a 51, and as you can see, she looks quite a bit different than the last time you saw her. So I'll hand it over to Joe and let him take us through.
So last time we weren't quite stripping it yet, but we got all the stripping done. Got all the way down to where the stain was put in, and it is the old style stain, so it is filler stain, and it is awful to get out. So when we're stripping, we're using a lot of the steel wool to get it all cleaned out. And at this point, the seams were, they were somewhat straight, but it looked like at one point some of them filled in, they were chiseled out. So what I do is use our track saw, and I'll go through and clean out every single seam, and then I make a little stick that is the exact dimension of what they need to finish out as, and I'll just put it in the seam, start working it back, and this assures that it is going to be completely straight when you're done, because you're sanding, a good 6-8 inches at a time. But once those are all done, we will be getting to our bleach stage. The worst part about that is everywhere where there's blonde, it was some kind of stain mixed with something else. I mean, it was really nasty to get out. But once we get through the staining, we'll be sealing off everything that is blonde. So that way when we go to stain everything else, our blonde is already sealed and it won't take any stain in.
The blonde is Low Boats, Chris-Craft Carina blonde. It's a gel stain. We, as you know, there's no filler stain in this shop anymore that is doing other than occupying a little bit of space on a shelf somewhere. We just don't use it. Looks like you've done some sanding.
Yeah, we are almost completely done flat sanding it now. We only got to go over this side one more time, because I go over it 2 or 3 times with just pencil lines to ensure everything is completely flat. And we use the Hutchins flatboard sanders. And it's really important when we're using these is you don't want to have them completely straight when you're doing it. You want to add a little bit of an angle and move it in the same direction. So that way it's not going crossways, but it's hitting, a good 3 or 4 chunks of these at a time to make sure that they're flat. If you're going this way, you're only making this much of the area flat, where we want a bigger majority of it at once.
That also risks producing an undulating surface.
Correct.
It looks, and the sides as well. Boy, those seams are as tight as I've ever seen on a wooden boat. And you can see here where Rick has been working on the topsides and the transom, and we use pencil lines to guide us as we sand. But she is really coming together. This hull is just as pure and in just the most excellent shape we've ever seen. There was one spot over here, if you remember, go back and look at the previous video. It was right here, wasn't it, Joe?
Yep.
And we thought there might be a little bit of rot along here, but what did you discover?
So what I discovered is they had so many staples that were touching with the upholstery that over the time, I don't know if just weight of the crash pad coming down pulling staples, it just split this piece out a little bit. So at that point, I'll just use some Tight Bond 3 with a clamp and clamp it all back.
And you notice, if you again revisit the previous videos, the interior of this boat is just in show-ready condition. The last thing we want to do when we have a bunch of stripper and stain and God knows what else, creating dust and this kind of residue, to have that get down into the boat. So Rick spent actually several hours, right? Yeah. Sealing off everything so that it will remain clean during the entire process. So she's coming along, looking great, and we'll be back to you next time once we've bleached her. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now from Snake Mountain Boatworks.